Hey everyone, it's Kalen from Kite. Today I'll be showing you 6 handy Python tricks to improve your productivity. These shortcuts will help you code faster and smarter in just 5 minutes. The most powerful of these tips will be towards the end of the video, so make sure to stick around to learn how to make your code more efficient. For the duration of this video, I'll be using Visual Studio Code with the Kite Copilot enabled. You notice that on the right-hand side of my screen, the code documentation will appear as I type, giving me the details of the function signature and how to properly use it. The first trick I'll cover is a fast way to swap the value of 2 variables. Swapping the value of 2 variables is a situation that occurs very frequently in many Python programming tasks. Accomplishing this is often done by introducing a placeholder variable to save the value of one variable and then reassign it to another variable. This is best shown via a simple example. Instead of setting the value of C to A, the value of A to B, and finally B to C, we can take this 3-line statement and condense it into one single line. Now we can check the value of the variables and see that their values have been switched. Easy. The next trick will allow us to extract the largest and smallest values in a set using a single function call. The max and min functions are built-in Python functions that are used to pull the greatest and least values from a set. Rather than iterating through the set and comparing it against each value encountered, we can condense this into a single line to do all of the heavy lifting for us. Here you can see that we have a list of unordered numbers of varying value. To pull the largest value from the set, use the max function. And here we can see that the value of the variable largest is in fact 39, which is clearly the greatest number in the list. Finding the smaller number is just as easy. We can call min on the same set to pull the number with the least value. And voila, we can see that the value of the smallest number in the set, 4, has been identified from the list. For our third trick, let's learn how to harness lists. Lists are one of the most frequently used data structures in Python, and creating them can often be a tedious task with lots of repetition. Let's create a list of all even numbers up to 20. You might think upon first instinct to create a for loop within the range 20, and then append all numbers whose modus with respect to 2 is 0. That would work, but we can use a technique called list comprehension to accomplish this in a single line. First, let's create our list. And within the list, create a variable, let's call it x. We can manipulate the value of x by creating a for loop right in the list declaration using the same syntax you would in a regular for loop. Now for our condition that the numbers are even, we add the conditional right after our for loop declaration, also within the list declaration. And now we can see that the value of evens contains all the even numbers up until and not including 20. For the fourth tip, I want to take a moment to tell you more about Kite, which is the AI coding assistant we use in this video. Kite is a free plugin for your code editor that uses machine learning to help you code faster. If you're using Atom, VS Code, Spider, PyCharm, Sublime, or Vim, Kite will seamlessly integrate into your coding workflow. Not only can Kite complete entire lines of code, it has a feature called Intelligent Snippets that will help you input arguments and method calls with variables defined earlier in your codebase. The next tricks will cover list manipulation. Often you'll have a subset of data within a list that you wish to perform some action on. Say passing each number in a list to some outside function and returning a new list from it, or filtering out all data points that meet a certain condition. Python provides 3 handy functions, map, filter, and reduce, to provide you with an easy method of doing this. The first function of this family is map. Map allows us to pass in a separate function to apply to each element in our list. Notice the function square above that takes a single argument n and returns the value of n squared. Rather than iterating through the list with a for loop, we can use map to concisely call this function for each item in numbers. Use the syntax map function iterable to apply function to each item in iterable. Now map will return a map object rather than a list itself, so we need to call the built-in list function on the result to get a list representation of our squared values. Do so by calling list with the map function inside of it. Now you can see that squares contains all the values in numbers with their squared value. Next we have the built-in function filter. This function is useful for removing values in a list that do not meet a specified condition. Say we wanted to filter out all the odd numbers in numbers. We can do so by calling filter in the exact same way we did map, passing a Boolean function as the first argument. So here we have another function even. Even returns true if the value of n mod 2 is equal to 0. By passing even into filter, we get a filter object, much like a map object with map. Once again, we need to call list on the filter object to return a list representation of the filtered numbers. Now you can see that evens contains only the even numbers present in numbers. The last function in this family is reduce. Unlike map and filter, reduce needs to be imported from the functools library. We can import the function by typing from functools import reduce. Now notice the function multiply, which takes two numbers x and y as arguments and returns the product of the two. We can pass this function as our first argument in reduce. This will apply the multiply function to all the elements in numbers and return the product of all numbers in the list. Use the syntax reduce multiply numbers to get the result of multiply on each element in numbers. And there we have it. The cumulative product of all the numbers has been calculated all within a single line. The key difference here is that while map applies a function to each element in a list, returning output of the same length, reduce is used with aggregating functions that actually reduce the size of the output. The last Python trick I want to mention is Lambda functions. Lambda functions are one-line statements that outline a generic operation to be performed. This is more concise than creating an entirely new function using the def keyword and can neatly be used with some of the functions introduced earlier. Let's see how we can use a Lambda function in place of the function signatures we used in map, filter, and reduce. From our map example earlier, we had the function square as the first argument in map. With Lambda functions, we can define this function within the first argument of map by using this syntax. And recall that map returns a map object, so we need to put our map function within a call to list. There we go. The output was exactly the same as before, and we only need one line to create it. Similarly, with filter, we can replace the function call in the first argument with a Lambda function. Using this syntax, we define the condition function in the first argument. Once again, we need the list function to get the list, so we call list on the filter function that we just defined. And now we see that evens contains a list of all the even numbers within numbers. Finally, with reduce, we can use our Lambda function to handle the logic from the multiply function. We can do this by creating a Lambda function with two variables rather than one. Use this syntax to perform multiplication defined by the Lambda function across all elements in numbers. And there we can see the calculated product of all elements within numbers. So that wraps up our 6 Python tips and tricks. The shortcuts covered in this video are just some of the built-in tools Python provides to make problem solving much quicker. Make sure to try them out next time you're coding to save time. And make sure to subscribe to our channel as we'll have more Python tips coming your way. Finally, don't forget to check out the Kite AI autocomplete plugin if you haven't already. The link's in the description below. See you next time.